Today is the third video in our series of videos about learning how to program in Python. Okay, and today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about selection and if statements. Okay, so this is how you can get your computer to choose, or it can take a different path almost. Okay, so it can take two different paths, and the path that it takes is determined by some kind of test that you've included in your code. Okay, so today we're going to talk about selection or if statements. Okay, so we're going to start with a little activity where we just talk about these different comparison operators. Okay, so hopefully you've met some of these before. I'm assuming you would have met some of them in maths. Okay, some of them you might not recognize because they're a little bit different in computer science from maths, but some of them you might be able to work out what they are from the symbols that I've used. Okay, so what I want you to do, I want you to pause this video for about 30 seconds, and while it's paused I want you to try and work out what those symbols are. Okay, so pause it now. Okay, so hopefully you paused it for 30 seconds. Okay, if you're being honest. All right, and now we're going to go through what these symbols mean. Okay, so the first one, all right, I'm just going to write them in on my iPad so you can see them on the screen. Okay, so the first one, this one here, is of course greater than. Okay, now the next one you might not have recognized, okay, but I will tell you that it's the same as this, okay, which is what you use in maths. Okay, we don't have that symbol in computer science, so that's why we don't use it. All right, so instead we use this symbol, and this just means greater than or equal to. Okay, so it can either be greater than or equal to. This one you should know. Okay, this one of course is less than. Okay, and then again going on what you've just learned about greater than or equal to, this one of course is the same as that, which means less than or equal to. Okay, now the next one you probably don't recognize. Okay, and the reason why this is a bit different from what you would do in maths is because we already use the single symbol of this. Okay, so this one here means equal to. All right, and you will remember in the first two videos we talked about variables, okay, and assigning a value to a variable, and that's why we don't use the single equals, because the single equals means to assign a value to something. Okay, so the double equals means equal to. All right, and then this one, did anyone get this one? So when you were doing your 30 seconds, did anyone work out what this one is? All right, this one of course is the opposite of equal to, which of course is not equal to. Okay, so those are some different operands, okay, some different operators that hopefully make some sense to you, okay, and you need to keep those in mind as we are talking through how an if statement works. Okay, but before we do that, we're just going to move on and have a look at this slide here. All right, we're going to forget that second slide. Okay, so basically an if statement, all right, allows us to create a program that can either do this or this. Okay, and whether it does this one or this one is dependent on this here. Okay, so your if statements that you create are going to be made up of three parts. Okay, the first part is going to be a test. All right, basically this is just going to be a statement that either evaluates to true or false, and I'm sure you can all give me an example of one. Okay, we could say it is raining. Okay, that is a statement that evaluates to either true or false. That statement is either true if it is raining or false if it is not raining. Okay, it is sunny. Okay, is either true or false. Okay, 10 is greater than 8 is of course false. Okay, of course 10 is of course true. Of course 10 is greater than 8. Okay, 5 is equal to 4 is of course false. Alright, so these are all examples of statements that evaluate to either true or false. Okay, now, so that's the first part of your if statement. The second part of your if statement then is going to be some code that is going to be executed if your statement evaluates to true. Alright, so this is what your program is going to do if your statement evaluates to true. okay? Now the third part is actually an optional part, all right? So the third part is where you add a little bit of code that says what's going to happen if that statement evaluates to false, all right? Now you don't need to include that, okay? So it's not essential to include that, but you need to know that you can include that if you want to include it. Okay, so we're going to have a very quick look at how to write that a program that uses an if statement. Okay, so you can hopefully see my programming window now. All right, and what I've got here is I've just imported the random library because I'm going to randomly generate a number, and then down here, okay, I am just randomly generating a number between 0 and 1, and rather than printing that, I'm going to store that in a variable, and I'm going to call that variable num. Okay, so I've got a variable and I'm assigning it the value because I'm using that single equals. Okay, so I've assigned the variable num the value of either 0 or 1. Okay, now I'm going to create my if statement. Okay, so if is the key word here, and we're going to write it in lowercase. All right, so we're going to write it in lowercase like that. All right, and then we need our statement that's going to evaluate to true or false. Okay, so the statement that I'm going to put is I'm going to say is num equal to 0. Okay, so that's my statement. All right, is num equal to 0. That's either going to be true or false. It's either going to be 0 or it's not going to be 0. It can either be 0 or 1. Okay, so that statement evaluates to true or false. Then I'm going to put a colon, and it's really, really important to remember the colon. Okay, and often people forget the colon. Okay, so now that I've done that, okay, I'm going to press enter, and again, if you look back at the slide that we've got at the top there, okay, it says that the second part of our if statement is a block of code to execute if that statement evaluates to true. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the computer what to do if that statement evaluates to true. Now you will notice that my cursor is indented. Okay, so the code that I want to execute if this is true needs to be indented. Okay, there needs to be some distance between the column over here and where you start to type. Okay, and you can do that. Now the computer does it automatically. If you put a colon in, all right, and press enter, the computer will automatically put the indent in. If it doesn't, you can just press the tab key on your keyboard. Okay, and you get your indent. Okay, so what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to create a coin toss simulator. Okay, so I want to print. So I'm going to say that if my statement is true, so if num is equal to 0, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to print heads. Okay, so now look, I could finish my if statement there. I did say that the third part was optional. Okay, I am not going to though, because I want, in this situation, I want to use that third part. Okay, so the third part says I can add some code to execute if it's false. Now to do that, I need to backspace. All right, so I've got the cursor lining up with the if now. All right, and I need to write else this time. Okay, and again, what do I need to remember? I need to remember that colon there. Okay, now I press enter. Every time I put a colon, the computer automatically indents for me. Okay, so now everything that's indented underneath here, all right, is going to be what I execute if this is false. So if that statement is false, if num is not equal to 0, this is what I'm going to execute. Okay, so in this situation, I'm going to print tails like that. There we go. Okay, and that's my program finished. That's my if statement finished. Okay, I've got the first part. Here's the first part, which is the if keyword with my statement that evaluates to true or false. All right, here's the second part. This is the code that executes if this evaluates to true. Okay, and then here's the third part, which is the code that evaluates that executes if this evaluates to false. All right, let's just run it just to show that it works. So we just run it. There you go. And we can run it again. Okay, we get tails a few times. Ooh, there we go. We've got tail. There we go. There's heads. All right, so we've got a nice coin simulator there that we've managed to create. Okay, so hopefully that me showing you the code there shows you how to create a simple if statement. Okay, So it's been lovely speaking to you in this video. The next video will be how we can take our if statements a little bit further and how we can extend them just so we can make them do a little bit more. Alright, thanks for watching.